to acquire something. But the things that we learn just playing games unintentionally, I could have a list a mile long, like you were saying, spatial awareness, multitasking, social skills.
Goal setting.
Goal setting,
Right,
yeah. See, games are good. That's a good thing. Dr. B, modeling and behavior change.
Well, this is actually gonna touch on a lot of what everybody else said, because I think about this stuff in all that I do, in all that a lot of us do. It's just the language I speak when we talk about this. But Dr. Kelly mentioned the term reinforcement, okay? What that basically means is anything that makes a behavior more likely to happen in the future. And a common misconception that is a soapbox of mine to anybody who'll hear it, negative reinforcement's a good thing. Like, another word for negative, most people use it incorrectly as the term punishment, but negative reinforcement means relief. Okay, negative reinforcement's awesome. Just to give you an example, the way if I'm using it in D&D, because what we're talking about is called operant conditioning. It's built into a lot of games. Like in D&D, if you make some really amazing roll or strategy or whatever, and you have a curse removed, are you likely to be awesome in the future? Are you going to do that strategy again? If it worked for you. Yeah, so that's negative reinforcement. We took away something unpleasant, okay? And the cool thing about this is we can think about this in terms of changing people's behaviors. Not in as sinister a way as it sounds. It's not like the Manchurian Candidate where you come in and it's like, who saw the original one, by the way? Like Angela Lansbury, Frank Sinatra. Oh. Okay. For those of you who know Angela Lansbury as the teapot, she is terrifying in this movie. Okay, she's terrifying. But we can think about this, like we can reward and build on these behaviors in a really conscientious way. Like the way Dr. Kelly was talking about, we can take a skill, and boy, I was going someplace with that, and now I'm totally just like, wait for it. No, I totally had an amazing point with that, and now it's completely left my brain.
Let's just act like he made a really good point.
Hold on, no, ask me moment. Well, either way, okay. So
What's that? Are you stroking him?
I'm tired. But anyway, one of the other beautiful things, especially with games, especially face-to-face games, is the opportunity to watch how other people do it. Social learning, modeling. Okay, that's part of the reason I love Dungeons and Dragons. But even like the way Adam was talking about Overcooked, is you see other people doing something that is going to get you a reward, that is going to get you something you value, and you're more likely to start doing it. Now, especially when it comes to like pro-social things that benefit us, that's amazing. And video games and just tabletop games and all this stuff become an amazing way of delivering these therapeutic interventions. And if you've got a skilled enough person, you've got a whole group, you can get an entire group basically modeling the kind of behavior you want to see. Speaking of, thinking about impulse control, one of the ways I used to do this with groups that I used to run for D&D is impulsivity issues, okay? A lot of the kids I worked with, Aspies, ADHD, lots of talking out, blurting things out, not waiting turns, just I gotta go. I mean, in some cases, like actually vibrating in their seats, bouncing up and down. That gets hard to share, that gets hard to play when you're a D&D player in a room full of 6 people and one person is dominating things. So what we do, well, I had 2 ways of doing this. One was to universally reward players who were doing the behaviors we hoped for. And we did so in a visual way. We had a whiteboard, and every time somebody raised their hand and waited for their turn, everybody got experience points. Everybody got experience points, bonus XP. Whenever somebody didn't do that, everybody lost bonus XP. And it was really incredible to see how quickly every single one of them was way better about getting more XP. That turned into power gaming real quick. Like, wait, how did you all get up to level 9? I don't get this. But you can utilize these things, and even other people in the group to sort of not just change one person's behavior, but change everybody's behavior. It's really super cool, and we see that, you know, in some of the stuff everybody's been talking about. So I really want to remember what that other point was before I stop talking, but it's not going to happen. So I'm just going to
like come out.
no, and I'm going to blurt it out in the middle of this. I'm going to be like, therapeutic interventions. Yeah, Khrushchev and like, bashing my shoe on the table.
Rachel's going to be like, we ended 30 minutes ago.
I'll be sitting lowly in here, just be like, what was I going to say?
Okay, so we're trying to leave a lot of time for Q&A so we can hear from you. If you want to find more resources on games for good and the science behind games for good, these are a few good resources to check out. Working with video gamers in games in therapy is obviously more skewed to the therapeutic interventions, and there's some up here if you want to have a look. The Parent's Guide to Video Games is the Cliff Notes to the video game debate, so you don't have to necessarily be a parent. Even though it's a parent's guide. That's like the too long didn't read version of that. Okay, so we're going to do questions. Before we do questions, few rules. Have your question ready before you come to the mic. The question should start with the who, what, where, why, when, or how, and everybody gets one. Okay, so ask away.
There's a microphone in the middle.
There's a microphone in the middle.
So, Dr. B, so about negative reinforcement, taking away bad things. Can you just go into that more in depth? Like as in more of a, is it like more of a buff or like just taking away like or something?
Okay, so talking about operant conditioning, there's basically 4 things to think about. Okay. Positive reinforcement doesn't mean it's a like happy-go-lucky positive thing. It means you're adding something. Okay? So another word for positive reinforcement is reward. Negative reinforcement just means you're taking something away, which is an unwanted condition. So negative reinforcement is relief. Now, in a similar respect, there's also positive punishment and negative punishment. Another word for positive punishment, where you're adding an unpleasant condition, is called pain. Whereas negative punishment, another word for it because you're taking something away, loss. So in D&D, a negative punishment might be a player loses an item they really, really liked. I was so mad at my DM when they took away my answer sword. I was so mad about that. I had no business having it at level 4, but that's a whole argument. But I mean, a joke I make is that, you know, and this is completely tongue-in-cheek, by the way, for positive punishment, is that a new DM will cite you rules about why they do what they do. A experienced DM will just drop a rock on you and say, because I said so. And that's positive punishment. Negative reinforcement, though, is relief. So anything in a game that brings you relief, like removal of a negative condition, easing up of the quest, that's negative reinforcement.
You know, I think a really good example that most people experience every day is the put your seatbelt on sound in your car. Right? It's super cool. And you're like, it's just a short drive, I'm just going to ride this out. And then that thing's like,
They'll do this forever if you guys don't hear
and the only way to turn it off is to put your belt on. So by removing that annoying sound, it increased the likelihood that I'll put on a belt, the frequency that I put on the seatbelt. That's a good one.
What advice do you have for gamifying leadership in the context where games aren't immediately preferences?
Can you say that again, half the speed?
I was already trying to be slow and winders. Anyways, how would you gamify leadership in a context where there aren't that many games? Let's say you're at a conference, you want people to listen, you want to communicate ideas. How would you gamify that in a way to make leadership more effective?
How would you gamify building leadership skills?
Not exactly. How would you gamify, like use gaming or the technique that you guys have worked with to more effectively get a point across, or to convince people or something, or like organize a group towards one sensible goal?
Wish Jamie was here.
Yeah, seriously, where is he?
Let's take that one.
I want to jump in and say it just kind of depends, because part of the reason I asked the question I was asking is like leadership is a really broad term, and breaking it down to what exactly you want to convey, like what's the point of what you're trying to teach, like really specifically, and once you have like the really specific definitions and goals of what you're trying to teach, then you can sort of work from there and figure out how do we get there. But leadership is, I'm sure you're aware, of this really broad, what is leadership? It's huge. And so it depends is the cop-out answer.
Yeah, go ahead.
Are you trying to help yourself build leadership, or trying to help somebody else build leadership?
Help myself.
Okay, so because that's really valuable. So like when we want to start exercising or like eating better, oftentimes it does help to give yourself some like rewards for that, right? We're talking about rewards. Like I don't like exercising at all, and I won't do it unless I can give myself something as a reward, because I won't go. That's an extrinsic motivator. But after a while, I might like going to the gym. I might see that it was helping me, but for the short term, I hate it. So I will go to the gym if I can like watch that movie that I've been wanting to watch, or buy myself like an extra board game that I've been wanting to get, or whatever that is. So you can give yourself a super extrinsic reward. If you go up there and you share your idea with somebody, you convey yourself, you practice that skill, buy yourself a donut. whatever you like, right? It's super extrinsic, it's not related. And then over time, you can replace that donut with the positive feeling that you get from using that skill, and then you'll see your leadership skills building, and then you will slowly start. You no longer need the donut to get yourself to go share your idea. You can actually just feel good about it.
But can you have the donut anyway?
You can have it.
Definitely earned a donut.
If you have too many donuts, the donut will no longer mean anything to you.
I was going to say, why doesn't he start with the small donut holes and go to a regular donut?
Oh, yes.
That sounds like addiction.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey guys, first of all, thank you, wonderful panel. You guys did a great job. I am a parent of a 7-year-old who is getting into video games. Through your clinical work and your work with children, as a gamer myself, I'm kind of past the don't let them play this game, don't let them play that. What tips can you give, based on your clinical experiences and your knowledge, to a layperson that is a parent that wants to be able to use video games as a force for good in their child's life, much as they have been for myself?
That's a great question. I think we should go down the line and everyone should give it to.
Okay.
So just to repeat the question.
Here's the question for a layperson.
Yeah, come on.
We'll do shadow puppets while you're there.
I was immediately running away. I got done with the thing and I did it well. So, no, I'm a parent of a 7-year-old. And you guys have letters and knowledge.
You have life letters, yes.
What can you use your fancy science words to tell my people on the educated brain to do with my small human person?
I like that.
Maybe I can reframe it a little just for my sake, maybe our sake. It's kind of like how to regulate it if need be, and how to capitalize on the wonderful things games for a second. Got it.
Okay, cool. So I'm a little bit hard of hearing, so that's why.
I'm not whispering love notes into his ear.
So we actually have done workshops for parents to understand how to talk to their kids about video games. It's important, I think, given the fact that you, wherever you went, are already a gamer, is really, really valuable. You already have a shared language. What I would say is play games with your child. Play together and model, speaking to what Dr. B was talking about, model positive behaviors. You can insulate your child from a lot of the potentially harmful impact of toxicity that's out there in the gaming world by playing with them and then addressing those things. Because you can talk about content that comes up in the game and talk about it as a family and what that means and how you want to interact with it. More mature content, if that stuff comes up, especially in online play, when somebody uses words and they will say, what does that word mean and why does he get to use it? that's a really valuable conversation for you guys to have. Then you can also model playing positively and pro-socially, and then having a family conversation about the games that you play. I don't want to take it too much time.
So I have a 6-year-old son as well, yeah. And, so I'll kind of speak to that, there's basically like 5 languages of love, is what we'll say sometimes, or ways we can express love to our kiddos. And for most kids, when they're kind of like, you try to get them to say which one's the most important, the top 2 are quality time and gifts. Gifts not so right. But quality time is noteworthy, right? And quality time is not, I'm doing something I want to do as a dad that I think is fun, right? It's what does this kid want to do? So if he loves a game, it's like play with him, interact with him, ask him while he's doing it. Be Socratic. What do you like about this? Oh, it was so cool. Try to draw it to real life principles, things about himself. If he does something, try to draw what happened in the game to a strength of his, right? Empower him with that. And the other is, again, you're talking about an incredibly powerful incentivizing force, right? My son has a tough time in school with controlling his energy and his attention. And so we have a kind of behavior plan. We use gamification in the school. He's doing really well. But impulsivity, blurting out, physical boundaries, a lot of it's pretty tough. So a lot of it is based on, look, you can buy extra screen time. Like you get this because we love you, and the screen's great, and video games are awesome, and Daddy wants to play with you. We want quality time to improve this relationship. But he can earn more, he looks forward to it, and if you want to pick, sometimes what I say is, pick like 3 of the top behaviors you want to work on with your kid, whether they're problematic or just ones you want to start fostering in him or her, he. So that you want to start fostering him, and maybe tie something to that, like we can build up some points and we'll get you a new game. And it's 2 for 1. It's like empowers him, you work on a behavior, and he's like, my dad loves me. And that's a solid goal.
I like to think about things in terms of what's called phenomenology. Basically, what do we get out of things? What's our personal experience? Because the meaning that we get out of our behaviors may stay the same, but the meaning we get out of it changes over time. It can change anyway. So I would say for parents, understand why your kids are playing the video games they're playing. What you may see is that it starts out like maybe your son plays because it's cool and it's fun, I get to hang out with dad. Maybe your son enjoys it because, oh sweet, I get alone time. But it's the same, it can be the same behavior. And so, and especially as your son grows, the reasons he engages in this may change over time. And so if you understand the why he's doing it, then you're similarly to what Dr. Kelly's saying and what Adam said, you're going to have a lot more pull in terms of helping your son to develop into the amazing person that your son can be.
This is the bad part about being on this side of the table.
Say something we haven't said.
Yeah, we get it, right? It's like pretty much the entire spectrum of what we do.
Buy his book.
Yeah. The biggest thing that what we do is the change that I see that actually gets implemented is when I instruct the parents to play with their kids, to have them engage in the game, to have the kids teach them something new. That if I have a kid who plays Fortnite and the parents are like, I don't understand this game. Why they're just shooting cartoonies? It's just why is he playing? What's the problem? Blah blah blah. And everyone's like, all those questions can be deemed valid, but when have you asked your child? Have you asked them? Have you played with them? Have you gone and interacted with them on that? Or have you just come into the room and be like, why are you playing that game again? Once the parents get a little bit more involved, the whole world just opens up. Then you can help guide, you can help manage, you can know what the kids are playing. Most parents don't even pay attention some of the times outside of the ESRD rating system, what their kids are playing.
Yeah, and kind of piggyback on that, in our household, we're all gamers. Every one of my kids have a gaming PC that they built or we built together. It's kind of a learning experience. So I got 2 quick stories to tell. My youngest son and I were playing No Man's Sky together. Excellent game. He was very driven to be the most wealthiest person alive in the whole solar system, and he was doing a really good job until the game file got corrupted, and he had to start all over again. Well, he was very discouraged, and we had such a good time playing together, and we were really connecting in a different area. So we were talking about, you know, what it means to overcome the obstacle. And in the game of No Man's Sky, you know, you have plenty of obstacles you have to deal with. There's elements that you have to harvest in order to continue breathing out there when you're in your suit, and a bunch of other components. Well, we were talking about that, and every once in a while, you know, he wasn't playing the game at the time. He'd come up to me and say, "Hey, Dad, what level, you know, what kind of ship you're flying right now?" "I got an S-class ship." He says, "Oh my gosh, how did you get that?" And we would just start talking. And, you know, this is, you know, an 11-year-old and a now 40-year-old that just hit it, are talking about this common theme of a game. And that's kind of one way we've built up the relationship. But taking it into a more clinical aspect, this is going a ways back when I was doing my internship. I had my first family that I was providing counseling service to within the VA. And it was a challenge, especially with my first one. A lot of enmeshment going on, which basically means the roles of these families were not very clear. Sometimes the daughter would be the take on the role of the parent, and it was just really hard for their youngest son, who had a bunch of cerebral behaviors that were going on. So I used World of Warcraft, and I used the terminology of the game, because the daughter was much older than the brother. She was kind of taking on the role of parent, and she didn't understand why she was receiving such a backlash from her younger brother. And so she talked about, wow, World of Warcraft. And we started talking about the game, because I played it too. And we started talking about the roles when you go out there in a raid, or when you go into a dungeon. If the healer is not healing the group, well, you're going to wipe. If the DPS has not spent the right amount of time investment into their gear, making sure that they have all the right setups going on, they're going to do crummy DPS, and they're going to fail the group, and they're not going to be able to down that boss if there's like a timer on it. And so we started talking about that, and we related the game to her over-involvement in the family, and how important it was for her to be able to, as we say in the military, stay in your lane. You know, we don't need her to chastise her younger brother for not doing a great job of cleaning up his room. That's not her role in the family. Her role is the role of a sister. And so we talked about that, using the character developments in WoW, the roles of each person, the tank, the DPS, the healer, and how it applies to their family. So to me, that would be a way to explain how families and gamings and kids, you know, how you can relate that and use that as a tool as a parent.
I first of all want to say that I have a friend who actually streams on Twitch under StackUp, so I want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Also, my question is sort of similar to what you brought up with your the brother to sister sort of helping. Is what would you say? What would you do to counsel more or less outside of the office? Have like peer-to-peer more as a 17-year-old who was 16 at one point and knows what it's like not to really feel like that they're able to talk to someone. How would you say having like a close friend be able to talk to a person who is struggling with sort of issue from like the educational